We're just putting up some of the photos as well of that suspect, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson, who was nabbed in his hometown of Washington, Utah. This is just 33 hours after he allegedly shot Kirk from a rooftop on the campus of Utah Valley University. The capture came after a frantic manhunt that began with only some of these grainy images of the suspect's figure fleeing the scene, of course, eventually getting more updated information so we could help identify him. And so to talk a lot more about where this investigation now stands and what we're looking forward to in the next week, I want to now bring into the conversation legal analyst Jeremy Rosenthal. Jeremy, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now from Fox. So much to get into as it pertains to this case. But let's start off with some of the latest information. I want to put up this tweet that we have from Fox's Brooke Singman. This was an exclusive that they had there at Fox News saying that Charlie Kirk assassin Tyler Robinson lived with his transgender partner, sources tell me. The individual, who is a male transitioning to be a female, is fully cooperating with the FBI. Sources tell me that the FBI had text and other communications between Robinson and the individual that helped FBI authorities solidify that Robinson was indeed the shooter. And so with this information coming out and really starting to put the pieces together to learn a little bit more about how Tyler was ultimately apprehended by those law enforcement sources, I have to ask you, what role is this going to play as this moves forward, this conversation that happened there from the roommate with their authorities?
Clearly, this person is going to be a pretty material witness in this case. They're going to be able to talk about not only the messages that were sent, that Mr. Robinson knew that there were weapons in a bush that he hid somewhere, some of those type things, but going further and a little deeper into Tyler's behavior, into Tyler's specific conduct, potentially to give maybe some light into any kind of radicalization that he experienced. But this is clearly going to be a very material witness. Obviously, the federal authorities are going to look over anything and everything having to do with Tyler and his life, his computer devices, his internet searches, anything and everything, certainly his home that he shares with this person. Everything is going to be really looked at under a magnifying glass. And at a minimum, this person is going to be a very critical witness in this case.
And being that they've already gone to the police and helped out there, do you anticipate that they may even have to testify in court? Or is there a possibility and show their face? They'll have to necessarily, that's one of those things that a lot of witnesses talk about. So what does that look like for them?
Well, they're a witness, and yes, they would absolutely have to be in court. Tyler Robinson, if and when he stands trial, has the right to confront his accusers, and that means anybody and everybody who is offering testimony in his case that's called as a witness by the government. It could also be that Tyler Robinson calls this person themselves if they think that this person can assist in his case and offer testimony of any kind. So pre-trial and before that, certainly you would hope that this person's privacy is protected, that their ability to remain objective and neutral and come to court ultimately to offer truthful testimony, whatever that may be, is done. I don't know that that's necessarily a witness protection issue or not, but there is, I would have every reason to think that this person would absolutely testify in any kind of trial of Tyler Robinson in this case.
And when we're talking about the case, and we've spoken many times about Luigi Mangione, that case that happened in New York, of course, we know that he shot there the United Health CEO and then went on the run for several days before he was eventually apprehended. This case reminded me a lot of that because it did ultimately take the police about 33 hours to take him into custody. How is that going to play a role in court? Does any of those details matter in the time, those 33 hours that happened after the shooting and before he was eventually turned himself in fact, with the help of his own father?
There are a lot of parallels between Luigi Mangione's case and this case for certain. Not only the fact that you had a murder that happened in cold blood that was seen essentially on camera, But you also parallel a lot of the legal theories and a lot of the actions that you can anticipate that the government is going to take. Also, that the defense may very well take, given the fact that he wasn't apprehended on the spot. Let's begin with some of the dragnet type tactics that law enforcement used to catch both Luigi Mangione and Tyler Robinson. We're talking about video surveillance. We're talking about video footage. We're talking about interviewing different witnesses. There's some technical issues too. What I'm curious to know about in Mr. Robinson's case is whether they use what's called a geofence warrant. A geofence warrant has some legal issues to it. That's where law enforcement basically takes a look at any and every cell device that's within a certain area. And that might be critical at the first few hours of this, because you essentially had no idea who this was. You had a crowd of over 3,000 people, so a geofence warrant may have well been utilized in an instance like this. With Luigi Mangione's situation, when they apprehended him at the McDonald's, his legal defense team is making a huge deal. A big part of his defense, a cornerstone of his defense, is some of the technical issues. And because there's so many things now pointing to Mr. Robinson in this case, it becomes more and more and more likely that his defense is going to have to be a technical one. He's going to have to challenge warrant searches. He's going to have to challenge questioning things. I will say a major difference between the Mangione case and Tyler Robinson is that if Tyler Robinson confessed or admitted this to his parents or to his roommate, or anybody else, that's going to cut off a lot of his technical arguments for search warrants and those types of things. But I do believe that these cases are very parallel all the way down to the legal theories that can ultimately be used for the death sentence here.
And so I'm glad you brought that up. Honestly, that's where we were going next here, Jeremy. We have to talk about the death penalty and what role that plays in this case. Does Utah have that on the table there in the state? And how does the FBI and their role in what they say are pending charges still going to play a role? We know that underneath Bondi, Attorney General Bondi, she's also brought back the death penalty. Another similarity there with the Mangione case.
Exactly. In Utah, he is subject to the death penalty. The theory in Utah, when you think of the death penalty, a murder charge becomes capital eligible in most states. Whether they have the death penalty or not, it becomes capital when you have murder plus a certain aggravating factor. That factor can be multiple things. It could be that it's a police officer or a first responder that's a victim, or a child that's the victim. It could be in the furtherance of another felony or multiple victims. Here, I think the most logical argument that the state of Utah could make was that it was terroristic in essence. And not only that, that multiple other people could have been hurt. Although Charlie Kirk was murdered, you saw that this bullet was fired in a crowd of roughly 3,000 people, and it was very possible that in the panic afterwards that other people could have gotten very badly hurt or injured or even killed. So I think that is what's going to be the aggravating factor that the state of Utah can use. The federal government, again, to kind of go back to the Mangione case, the federal government can also sort of use the theory of terrorism, or that he was trying to incite a larger terroristic movement. When Luigi Mangione, when he murdered CEO Brian Thompson, there's his manifesto. There's all these other things that indicate that he wanted to make a broader statement and a broader movement. At the moment, we know much less about Mr. Robinson. I'm sure we're gonna learn more in the next few days. But at the moment, we don't have a manifesto. At the moment, we have statements and quotes from his family member that he really didn't like Charlie Kirk. I don't know that gets the government there, but that's the track I would think that the federal government would take in prosecuting this as a capital case.
And I have to ask you, Jeremy, we do know that those formal charges are expected to be announced on Tuesday, September 16th, and it's going to be accompanied by a press conference as well. What's the reasoning behind having to wait a few days? Is that something specific to Utah?
Utah's law allows for a bond or bail hearing after, I believe, 3 days, and that's probably 3 business days, because I believe he was apprehended Friday. So that's probably why I anticipate that he will be held without bond. if you're defending him, there's no reason not to do it that way, not to go and request the bond, because you could probably learn a little more evidence that way in the case. But I believe that's the reason for the delay, and I think that's why you're going to see Tuesday some of these other things kind of come down.
And as it pertains to the potential defense, this is what you do. When it comes down to his defense, is there a possibility that prosecutors will offer him a plea deal that allows him to avoid the death penalty, at least in the state case? We know that we saw that as well in the Idaho murders, I should say. Do you think that that's possible here? We saw it with Kohberger. Could it be possible here with Robinson?
Possible, but I would say unlikely given the pressure on the cases. When you're a prosecutor, you represent the government, you represent the state, the citizens. And what you do is you tend to develop a really special relationship as a prosecutor with the victims of a crime. And you do your best as a prosecutor to try to honor their wishes. If Charlie Kirk's immediate family asks for some type of a punishment, the state's going to take that very, very seriously. And obviously, none of us presume to know what their family would ultimately want. This is obviously a very fresh and very painful thing for this family to go through, and we simply don't know how they're going to feel about it in a year, and what they're necessarily going to want. So when you're the prosecutor, when you're the government, you're really considering these types of things. So it's possible that a deal like that could be struck. But again, it's those are the sort of the factors that are taken in. With the Bryan Kohberger case, you had not one victim, you had 4 victims and their families and their loved ones, and that's a lot of people to keep happy. And I think the prosecutor in that case kind of had to take a consensus of what folks wanted there. But that's what I would anticipate the analysis is here, and I don't think they're anywhere near making that decision.
All right. Again, we've been speaking here with legal analyst Jeremy Rosenthal, helping us to break down the very latest as it pertains to some of these details. Jeremy, anything else we should really be paying attention to before I let you go?
We're going to learn a lot here in the next week or so. This is where a lot of the media coverage, where reporters go to the neighborhood, to the schools, they put microphones in everybody's face and ask about Tyler Robinson, about Charlie Kirk. And I think we're going to learn a lot more about Mr. Robinson in particular. In this case, I think we're going to learn a lot of his issues, his leanings, radicalization, any kind of training that he had, things like that. We're going to definitely learn a lot about in the next week or 10 days. That may or may not change the dynamic. The prosecution is certainly beginning to take shape, and we'll just sort of see where it goes. But I think we're going to know a lot more about this very soon.
And we hope you'll be available to speak with us again here on Live Now from Fox once those new details do emerge. Again, Jeremy Rosenthal, legal analyst, thanks so much for being with us here on Live Now.
Thank you, Christina.